This is a Friday Shoes production. Today's lesson is 1-6, page 51 in the book. Target is I can multiply and divide integers. Sorry about my voice. I lost it last night. Hopefully I can survive this quick lesson about multiplying and dividing integers. Multiplying and dividing integers is actually easier than adding and subtracting integers. Here's why. If you look at the two key concepts here for multiplying, it says the product of two integers with different signs is negative, meaning if you have one positive and one negative, when you multiply, you will get a negative every time. All you have to do is multiply the number parts, 2 times 5, and then add a negative sign to it. Same with negative 5 times 2, that would be a negative times a positive. It still equals negative 10. Multiplication is commutative, so you can switch it and you'll still have the same answer. Take a look at the second one. The product of two integers with the same sign is positive. So anytime you multiply two positive numbers, in this case 2 times 5, you get 10. And if you multiply two negative numbers, two negatives when multiplied will give you a positive. So if the signs are the same and you're multiplying, you're going to have a positive answer. If the signs are different, a positive and a negative being multiplied, you're going to have a negative answer. Let's take a look at a couple examples here. And if you see, we have number 1, 6 times negative 8. Well, we have one positive, one negative. So when we multiply a positive and a negative, we have a negative answer. What is 6 times 8? 48. So the answer is negative 48. Number 2, we have a negative times a positive. So we have negative 9 times 2, which would be a negative answer because there's one negative. And 9 times 2 is 18, so it's negative 18. How about number 3? We have negative 4 times negative 3. That's two negatives. That means the signs are the same, two negatives. When two negatives are multiplied, you get a positive. So the answer is going to be a positive 12. 3 times 4 is 12. Let's take a look at this example, which has 3 numbers in it. In the first example, in the first method, we're going to use the associative property to solve. In the second one, we'll use the commutative property. Let's take a look. If we have 3 numbers being multiplied, we have negative 2 times 13 times negative 5. If we associate the first 2 together, meaning let's just do those 2 together, we would take negative 2 times 13, which would be negative 26 because one's negative, one's positive, and 2 times 13 is 26, so we have a negative 26. Then we would then take that, rewrite this math number negative 5 down, right next to that negative 26, and we would multiply negative 26 times negative 5. Now 5 times 26 is going to be 130. And we have 2 negatives, so it's going to be a positive answer because, again, when the signs are the same and you're multiplying, you'll get a positive answer. 2 negatives make a positive when you multiply. That's using the associative property. Take a look at the second method using the commutative property. In this process, you would associate the 2 negatives together just to get that knocked out, meaning I would rewrite the math problem, and this is using the commutative property, switching them up, and then multiply by 13. So I've switched the 13 and the negative 5. Then I would multiply negative 2 times negative 5. 2 negatives make a positive, and that's 10. And that would be 10 times 13. A lot of us could do that in our head. That's 130. You could see both times we get the same answer, but sometimes you have harder math problems if you don't see a faster way to do it using the commutative property. Go ahead and stop the video here and try these 9 problems. Hopefully they don't take too long. Here's how you do the first one. 5 times negative 3 is going to be, well, 5 times 3 is 15, and it's going to be a negative because there's one positive and one negative. Same with B. Negative 8 times 6, that's a negative times a positive, which is negative. And then 8 times 6 is 48. C is negative 2 times 4. Again, a negative times a positive will be a negative answer. 2 times 4 is 8. Take a look at D. We have 2 negatives being multiplied. When you take 2 negatives and multiply them, you get a positive answer. So it's going to be 21. And E should be real simple. 6 times 4, 24. Let's not forget our basics. Those are just two positive numbers being multiplied. How about F? That says -5 times -5. That's what the 2 means. You're going to write that down twice and then multiply them together. So -5 times -5, that's 2 negatives, and that will be a positive answer. So 5 times 5 is 25. How about the 3? For G, you have these 3 down here. And then we have 4 times -2 times -5. I'm going to do the associative property and keep it simple here. So we'll do 4 times -2, and that'll equal -8 because one's negative, one's positive. Then I'm going to multiply that by the remaining -5. 2 negatives multiplied give a positive. So the answer will be 5 times 8, which is 40. Second one, let me use the, well, actually, I'll do the associative property again on this one. So we have -1 times -3. 2 negatives make a positive, and 1 times 3 is 3. And then we take the last piece, put it next to it, 3 times -8. That's a positive times a negative. And we have a negative answer. And then 3 times 8 is 24. Answer is -24. All right, how about I? It says -2 to the third power. That means write down -2 3 times next to each other and multiply that out. So I'll start. -2 times -2. 2 negatives make a positive, so it's 2 times 2 is 4. Then multiply by that third -2, and 4 times -2 is going to be -8. All right, division. What's nice, division follows the same rules. So if you read through, it says the quotient or the answer of a division problem, the 2 integers will be, with different signs, will be negative. So if you have 2 integers, let's say this first one, -24 divided by 3, they have different signs, one's negative and one's positive, it'll be a negative answer. So you do 24 divided by 3, which is 8, and then put a negative on it because it is 1 negative and 1 positive. Take a look at the second sentence right here. It says the quotient of 2 integers with the same sign is positive. Well, take a look at the example, number 6. What this says right here is -30 divided by -15, except they're using a fraction bar. It means the same thing. Well, both signs are the same, therefore the answer will be positive. Then you just divide the 2 numbers. So 30 divided by 15 is 2. It's a positive 2 for the answer. How about you check yourself down here on these 3 problems? Stop the video and write them down. Come on back when you think you have the right answer. Here's J. -28 divided by -7. 2 negatives, when divided, will give you a positive answer. So therefore, all you have to do is do 28 divided by 7. 28 divided by 7 is 4. And again, the 2 negatives make it a positive. And K, this says 36 divided by -2. We have 1 positive, 1 negative, therefore the answer will be negative. And when you take 36 and cut it in half, which is dividing by 2, you get 18. So the answer is -18. And the last one, I, is -40 divided by 8. One's negative, one's positive, so our answer is going to be a negative answer, and then 40 divided by 8 is 5. So the answer is -5. All right. You can use all of the rules that you have learned for adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing integers to evaluate algebraic expressions as well. Here's how you evaluate an expression. In this case, number 7, let's do the example. It says take this expression, algebraic expression, -2a minus b, when a is -3 and b is -5, and evaluate it. So what do? We take an a and b, and we replace it with the numbers, -3 and -5. Once you place those in, and notice they're using parentheses, that is very helpful. You notice we have -2 times -3. So we'll write that down. -2 times -3 is 6. Now we have 6 minus negative 5. Well, we know that these two minuses right here will actually be an addition, which we add the opposite from the other day. And of course, 6 plus 5 is 11. So our final answer is 11. Go ahead and try this one. It's our final one for the day. Evaluate C plus 3A if A is negative 4, B is 5, and C is negative 6. Now I notice we don't need B. There was a couple problems here. I'm only giving you one of them. The other problems had B in it. So here we are. We have C plus 3A. Step 1 is taking the numbers and plugging them in for the letters. So C would be negative 6. We have plus, then we have 3, then we have parentheses. Let's plug in what A is. That's negative 4. We have now plugged in all of our letters. Now let's do the math using order of operations. We would not, and I say not, we would not add first, we would multiply first. So let's do 3 times negative 4. A positive and a negative make a negative, and then 3 times 4 is 12. So now we have negative 6 plus negative 12. Well, that's easy from the other day. When we have two negatives and we're adding them, we're going to have a negative answer, and all you have to do is add the 6 and the 12. And that's 18. So our final answer is negative 18. Remember, you can review the video or read the examples in the book, which I just did, or take a look at the personal tutor videos to see some other problems being completed by teachers. And as always, this has been a Friday Shoes production.